But it's like, I mean, and I don't get too many chances to really talk about science the way I want to. But I mean, it's kind of like with history. You know what I mean? I think I love both of them. I love history and I love science. I love the fringe stuff. I love going off and getting into the paranormal and the whole thing about ufology and stuff like that too, you know. But there's a, I mean, for people who actually freaking have a rational brain, they're able to differentiate things. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to have a subject that talks about Atlantis and then say that you have to discredit freaking actual ancient history because you believe in Atlantis now? Why can't you freaking actually be interested in both subjects without freaking one of them conflicting with the other? You know what I mean?
Deep on this specific subject matter.
You know, I mean, I'm interested in
Yeah.
I'm interested in the stories about Atlantis. I really am, but I'm also interested in like ancient history. What archaeologists believe when it comes to ancient history, and I'm interested in what ancient alien theorists believe too. You know what I mean? I'm cool with all of it. I like to sit and do research on all of it. I like to debunk a lot of the ancient alien stuff because I really do find it really humorous when I look at a lot of the stuff that they had on their show. You know, like they would make claims that just were just completely off the wall. You know what I mean? That was never historically ever made. Like they had this one about Pythagoras' father found this funny looking little kid out in the middle of the woods, and he was extremely intelligent, and he brought him home, and this kid was freaking so smart. He was a freaking star child, and he made it to where Pythagoras had to have him as a son, I think, an adopted son. And he guided him through his life and taught him all the secrets of the universe and shit. And I went and I checked to see if that was even a part, if it was even a myth. And there's nothing saying that Pythagoras' father did that, or Pythagoras had a little strange looking kid as a son that was a genius. None of that, you know. I found that that's the kind of stuff I'm into. I like to pick it. There he is.
Hey guys.
There he is. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, good.
I had to explain ancient aliens to Mark Edworthy.
Seriously?
Yes. Well, we were talking about eugenics before you came in here.
Okay.
So we started talking about facial recognition and eugenics. And,
How they relate?
Yeah. And then we went from there to talking about science and history and things of that nature. And like for me, I was just telling him, why can't you freaking be interested in all of it? Why can't you be interested in actual ancient history as well as, you know, ancient alien theories? And why can't you be interested in real science other than freaking fringe science? You know what I mean?
Actually, just going off onto a tangent for a minute. I had an interesting conversation with Ria not that long ago about she had the idea that science and religion couldn't exist in the same sort of realm. Yeah, if you're a scientist, you cannot, by definition, be religious.
Completely.
By definition.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. That's Galileo. He's very religious guy. Isaac Newton.
See, that's
a lot of scientists who are religious.
Yeah.
You hit that right on the nose. I'm glad you said that, because that's exactly what I was trying to say. Like, why is, I mean, that's complete nonsense. You know, why why can't you believe in God and still believe in science? Science is a tool, dude.
Yeah.
You know,
there's I think those people who make that claims are people who believe in scientism.
Right. The science is their religion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's the people who like treat science as the ultimate of everything, the source of truth, and it's basically their god. So
Yeah. Well, I believe that we are spiritual beings. We have spiritual instincts. And, I brought up before that classic scene in the comedy show Red Dwarf, where they're discussing aliens and God. And the one character says, "Oh, I don't believe in God. I believe in aliens." And because human, that is the most powerful thing they can think of. Before we had the scientific outlook, the most powerful thing we could think of was a spiritual being. So if we had something odd happen to us or a strange experience, we would attribute it to a visitation of some sort, an angel, or further back, a local spirit. But you can't think that way anymore. So if something really odd happens, well, it must have been a saucer interaction. And some of these saucer alien people, and I know a few, they're wonderful people, but you notice that they have a lot of their outlook seems religious. They're looking to a higher power, and they can no longer believe in a spiritual higher power. But we have an instinct for it. I had a friend of mine many, many years ago, a guy named Mike Gollner. Very nice. If he's listening, hello, Mike. Haven't talked to the guy in 30 years, probably. But he used to say we would argue about religion and stuff, and I used to be very, very reductionist in my arguments, because I always like to take the other view. And he would say, well, listen, if there's no God, why has every single human civilization and every single human society that we know of has had gods, has had a religion of some sort? There's no such thing as an atheistic society from scratch. Even today's arguably secular society is obviously post-Christian and very heavily influenced by it. Our ethics, our morals, and of course, these didn't originate with Christianity. As Chesterton would point out, the old pagans also had their morality, their ethics, and he found it to be a stricter and darker ethics and morality than Christianity presented. And again, pointing out that there was a reason for Europe's mass conversion. It wasn't all just Charlemagne chopping the heads off of Saxons after he baptized them. And as someone pointed out, it was Charlemagne. Whether he baptized them or not, he would have chopped their heads off. Chopping heads off had nothing to do with the baptism part. He just liked to kill Saxons, kind of deal. But yeah, I think Christianity was providing spiritual answers to people and who were looking for them. And we know in the late Empire, there were all these mystery cults, all sorts of new religions were springing up. So that was, that we have this inner drive to make a spiritual connection with something. And today it's very sad. We're trying to make that spiritual connection with the physical universe and the physical beings in it, which I think is kind of a come down personally.
Interesting. Hello, Otto.
Hello. I'm actually doing my laundry now. I'm just checking in once in a while to say hi to you guys. I'm glad you made it there.
I think in all of us, I think Mark Edworthy is the most atheistic in the whole gang, aren't you? Like, you don't believe in anything, do you, Mark?
I always argue that I consider myself to be more of an agnostic rather than an atheist.
Agnostic, yes. Yeah, I think we tend to associate atheism with militant atheists, where they are like they're anti-theists, more like, right? They're fighting.
It's almost
against
a religion for them too. They can get very. I know a guy that was he was raised as a very strict. What do they call it? like a Protestant Baptist, very quote unquote primitive Christianity, very, very fundamentalist. That was the word I was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And he turned from that and became extremely atheistic, and then later on went on to develop an early case of Trump derangement syndrome. It was amazing. And a guy I knew that also knew him was saying, I had lunch with him, but he just started screaming about how we have to fight Trump and this and that and all this stuff. And this was back in 2016, And I'm like, it suddenly strikes me, this is the same kind of emotional involvement that he had with his early religion as a child. This fire and brimstone, it must be, there is no black and white, or there is only black and white, there's no areas of gray. You're either with us or you're against us kind of deal. And it's the same mental pattern that's being repeated. And again, this is something, I'm going to jump over to like Dr. Dutton, the man that uses reductionist science to explain why religion is so important. We've always had in our societies a religious outlet, for the spiritual impulse that we have. And when the free thinkers and atheists took over and said, we don't need any of this God stuff anymore, we can just party, woo-hoo, no sin, this is great.
Right.
It removed so much that was there for a reason. You don't build up spiritual and religious traditions over hundreds and thousands of years, and arguably many thousands of years, right? For no reason. It's the same thing we were talking about eugenics earlier, about why you've got certain genes. They're there because they might come in handy sometime. You don't just like get rid of certain things. Oh, well, we don't need. I think, again, I'm quoting Chesterton a lot tonight. He said something about, if there's a wall up, you don't just tear the wall down. You figure out why the wall is there. And when you can tell me why the wall is there, then you can tell me why it's a good thing to tear it down. You don't just say, oh, look, it's a wall, let's just tear this down. Let's just get rid of this prop. Let's just get rid of that. This is freedom, woohoo. But, a lot of the times freedom comes from work. Freedom comes from dedication. It's freedom from things, freedom from the enslavement of your desires, of your what we call them defilements in Buddhism, the anger, the the greed, the delusion. And it's like, if people are naturally good and naturally incorruptible, they wouldn't be able to be corrupted. How do all these perfectly wonderful, noble savages that we all were at one time get together and create this evil society that is supposedly ruining us all from being noble savages? It never made sense to me. But
you're familiar with Chesterton, so you probably know in the Christian world, we define freedom as being able to do what we ought rather than doing whatever we want. Right?
I like that. That's good.
So,
yeah.
So,
and freedom is knowing what we ought to do too. That does free us.
Yeah.
Rules are really liberating if they're looked at properly.
Yeah. So, since you're talking about Trump, you're probably the best person to ask, Otto. What do you think of the recent State of the Union address?
I didn't see it yet. I haven't had a chance. I have read some things about what went on. Yeah, actually, I was in the middle of a lot of IRL stuff, I think, at the time. I've had a very hectic life of late. But I figured it would be more of the same. Trump, I used to watch his speeches before he became president again, because it's just he's so funny. I mean, the guy's like a stand-up comic, really. Now that he's in power, it's like, okay, I know all his jokes and stuff, and I know what he's going to say. It's kind of more fun watching him punch up. I mean, he's still punching up in a lot of ways. But I do know from what I saw of the State of the Union, I would say offhand, and I've heard a couple people argue this, that it basically showed up the Democrats as being, very childish,